Good morning, traders, and a happy Thursday out there to everyone. Hope that y'all had a nice evening there and are all ready for this day in front of us. As we know, fairly light on the board here today, but we do have a mild 8:30 data point just to keep in mind there for today's purposes. That's going to be our unemployment claims and our preliminary wholesale inventories, and then lastly, since we had the holiday there on Monday, we'll have the natural gas and the crude number both due out today at 10:30 for natural gas and 11 o'clock respectively there for the crude. So also good to make a note of that there. But with that said, without any further ado, I want to come over here and grab our daily chart here of the S&Ps. We know that yesterday we did do a fairly good job of holding our own, but we did end up closing yesterday as an NR7, just the narrowest range of the past 7 trading days. So we had that going for us there. We're still holding, the top portion of the bar from December 20th there, the 48.30. 75, so we've been kind of rotating a bit around that zone, but we were able to make a higher high in the overnight session. We got up to 48.41.50, and then proceeded to lighten up a notch. But overall, a fairly narrow Globex range, just about 10 points there to work with. So we are already back above, tested above the previous day's high. Down below we have 48.18, which would be the 5 SMA, but for now, certainly holding, maintaining their own. We'll see if we put in any better range there today, since we did have the NR7 yesterday. So we'll see if they want to open it up at all. But that's kind of where we're standing as far as the daily display goes for the ES. Narrow range yesterday, moving it up slightly higher overnight. So similar idea here on the hourly charts. That's our overnight high, the 41 and a quarter. So all we're doing is lightening up briefly. Previous swing highs in this vicinity as well. So 48.34 half. Just kind of trading a bit around that zone, but no major, signs of damage done or anything along those lines. As far as major loss of momentum or sell divergences, we're essentially just going through a little wave of positive consolidation. So we'll keep an eye. They have plenty of room to roam. If we drop it down to a little bit of a lighter time frame, we can recall our impulse bar that we had at the very end of the day there. So we, kind of moved it a little bit further from that, but just bearing in mind that we didn't necessarily develop that zone too much there, so that'll be another area that'll look nice on the market profile line of work, just because that was at the very end of the day, so we didn't spend a whole lot of time trading through that zone. So we'll keep an eye there for the ES, perhaps on these slightly higher time frames, such as like the hourly charts or the 30-minute display of data, just for the early morning tone. See if it gives us a nice rhythm to work with. So that's where we are in the ES. See if we get that better range on the day there, get out of that NR7, escape ourselves from that. Over on the DAX side of things, a bit of a different tone for the DAX. It had its large, nice extended run to the upside, so a little more tame as of late. Yesterday we did some testing on the reopening, since the DAX wasn't open on Monday or Tuesday, so we did some work. But in the case of the DAX, what we'll want to note is that we haven't been able to trade outside that previous Friday's bar there, the 16,999, call it 17,000, and 16,795. Whereas we've been able to escape that bar in our U.S. index futures, not quite so for the DAX as of yet. So kind of looking at that December 20th bar in the daily DAX as kind of being a point of interest if we were to breach either side of that data point there as far as the daily configuration goes. So not too bad. DAX also, just for what it's worth, opened up a little bit better yesterday, since we had the kind of narrow range there at the end of last week when we were going into holiday. So they opened up, but for now, not getting too far going just yet, but one that we'll want to keep note on there. Once again, that 20th bar for the daily chart of the DAX should serve as a nice area of interest there for us. And then moving on along here, we have our lovely euro currency here. This here, don't need that. We know that we were able to hold ourselves, started to do some good work above the 11,0700 mark. So not quite on the extended run, but we do have some, good traction going. We looked at the dollar index in some further detail, which for the most part is inverse. So here in the euro currency, we did proceed to make a higher high in the overnight session. All right. So we have that going for us, constructive with respect to that. 111,745 being the now overnight high. As far as the intraday data goes, we can see that we had our impulse as well. As we know, yesterday we kind of closed, right, with this little configuration here, this bull flag, if you would, on the 30-minute display of data. This was our pit close yesterday. So we did proceed to make a markup, or a full retest up overnight, right? Fell short on the first attempt, pulled back, and then proceeded to get out of the way. So a nice area for us to, rotate around if we want to try and hold this up, where the caution zone would come in, kind of viewing this 111,360 as kind of being the caution zone there in the EC, just because we didn't spend a whole lot of time beneath that point. In other words, we came up through this zone fairly quickly, so not super well developed there in the case of the euro currency. So should we loosen up at all, we'll be viewing that as a caution zone there for that EC. And then we have our gold here, also, doing an alright job. Had some nice extensions there during yesterday's trading, making a slightly higher high out of our inside range bar configuration. And we've already taken out the previous day's high, though, at 2095.8, so we already looked on the other side of that overnight, got to 2098.2, and then proceeded to lighten up a notch. But overall, as we know, or mentioned yesterday as well, we're starting to trade into the tail from that Sunday evening shake around that we had there in the gold. We got back above the original high there, the 2095, and started to trade into the tail. So it'll require some effort up there, but slowly, working their way up there. It's a little bit of a process. And then, as we can see on the 30-minute display of data, fairly interesting. We did have a nice impulse down to work with there during the overnight session, right after the Europe session opening. We had a nice 30-minute impulse bar in the gold, so just enough for them to come down and fill in some of the lower developed area here from our move to the upside in the gold. So, kind of watching between 2081, 2087 as being a bit of a region for the gold to play around with. And just noting here, if we were to come up any further, probably just want to adjust this zone just a notch there, closer to 2089. In other words, back above that point, we'd be dealing with some of that selling pressure that we had from overnight. So that would be a low developed area looming up above there in the case of the gold. And then we have this crudester here, the crude making some pretty curious movements as well. We know yesterday we were left with the inside range bar after having the outside update in the crude, so no test of the previous day's high on the following day. Very interesting to note that. So then we put in the inside range bar and are doing some testing on the other side of the equation. However, here with the intraday crude, the 120-minute display, you can kind of see the nature in which we've started to, come down out of this, right? Came down, put in a lower high, and then started to fill in some of the blanks from our original impulse up. Another kind of continuation pattern or flag, and now proceeding to come down. But this 7244, we have a couple spiked tails in this area that could require a little extra effort as far as getting on the other side of. So as we come down here in the crude, we have 73 as a bit of a round figure there, but 72.44 a bit more of a crucial zone to see if the crude's going to try and hold or maintain itself above those points at all. So that'll be certainly one to keep eyes on there, and especially since they have their report there today, their EIA data. And then lastly here, the bonds, right? Bonds, still doing a fine job of keeping things maintained. We had our nice extension bar yesterday, range expansion, if you would, out of the nice balancing act. So we put in a high yesterday of 125 at 30. So remains untested overnight, but could view this hourly chart or 30-minute data as being an A, B, C down into a bit of an hourly pullback or just a normal flag on the hourly and 120-minute data. So we'll see if these bonds, continue to keep things, above water and propped up there. But for now, they're certainly holding their own there. So with that said, we'll have Damon on in just about another 35 minutes or so. We're going to have a morning data point in the meantime, though, to get out of the way, and then we're going to be getting ourselves all set up here for this nice Thursday in front of us here, our second to the last trading day of the year and the month. So, and once again, this 8:30 data point here is just our unemployment claims and preliminary wholesale inventory. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a very significant one, but we'll let that all pan out and see how the market responds to that there in just a few moments. 5 minutes, or 4 minutes, I should say.